So Good job, hi Fazia.
Hello, Professor.
Now there. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Good to hear your voice. Good to see you guys again.
Thank you.
Hi Liz. Liz says hi in the chat, and Asha's coming in. Hey Asha.
Hi, Professor. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Hopefully you had a good spring break.
Pretty nice. Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Excellent. Good, good, good. And hi Morsal. Morsal's coming in. Hi there. Yeah, spring break was very late though, you guys. It's weird to come back and only have a few more weeks here, but we'll see what we can do. We'll give people a few more minutes coming back from spring break, but we've only got 5 of you guys. We'll see how it goes here. I hope you're all doing well. For people celebrating Ramadan, I hope you're doing well and taking care of yourself and enjoying a great month. I think what, week 3 of Ramadan now?
Yes, 2 more weeks. This week and next week. Then we'll Eid will be on 1st of May or 2nd.
And then the party, and then the celebration.
Yeah, after Ramadan, it is so good to celebrate. But hopefully it will be on weekend, because if it will be on Monday, so we have to go for work again. There is no party, there is no celebration.
Right. Will you, if it is, will you just wait and celebrate on a different day, like celebrate a few days later, or how do you do it?
Actually, it depends to the moon. So they will see the moon the first. So if it is appeared, so then they will announce like Eid for 3 days.
Right.
So yeah, but still we don't know. It is 1st of the May, 2nd of the May. Yeah, it is for 3 days.
Got it. Got it. Sadaf says hi in the chat. Hi, Sadaf. Well, I hope you're all feeling good. Hi there. I hope you're all feeling good and taking care of yourself, and yeah, trying to keep energy, especially for people with kids, right? Taking care of kids while you're fasting during the day. So I hope you're all doing well. Yeah, I'll wait maybe 2 more minutes and see. So only got 6 students. We'll see. Maybe people are feeling like I'll watch the recording later, but we'll see how we go. And same thing, I was saying happy Ramadan, but for people who just celebrated Easter on Sunday, happy Easter to you guys. And Buddy's is coming in, Manesia's coming in. You're pretty same, Anisha. Party has hi in the chat. Hello, hello. All right. Well, it's 6:36. We'll see. Maybe some other people will come in here. Like I said, the first week back, long vacation, long either some days long weekends too. It takes a minute. And I know, of course, for my people celebrating Ramadan class, as we get close to sunset, I know it is difficult. So thank you all for being here. For people watching the recording, thanks for watching this whenever you can. But I will go ahead and get started for today. So we are here after a week off. It is so good to see you. Hey, Quinn's here coming in too. It's really good to see your names, hear your voices. We are here in week 13. We are almost there, everybody. It is April 19th, 2022. Here's the plan for tonight. So for tonight, I'm going to sort of take care of some business, right? We've got some two major projects left before the end of the semester. I'm going to give you some information about the final exam, like I say here. Then, as I promised 2 weeks ago, I'm going to introduce the academic writing project, right? I will explain what I want you to do, show you the rubric, give you, instructions and answer any questions. Then after that, I've got a short activity to help us practice some of the skills that we've been learning and using, and that you will certainly use in the academic writing project, quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. And then we'll see how much time we have left after that. So that's why I have here Q&A, question and answer session. We'll just see what people need help with, what questions do people have, and we can sort of take it from there. You know, we'll see what people have, and then I can help you out any way that you guys need. Okay. So first, let's start with I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute while I get my screen ready here. And I'm going to start with the final exam, because I know, I think a couple people already texted me or emailed and had questions. So here's the basic information on the final exam. I'm not going to say too much about it, but if you're thinking about your schedule, right? If you're thinking about when things will happen, when stuff is due, here's the information about the final exam. So first, as I say here, I'm just going to read. I will introduce the final exam on our final Zoom meeting, Tuesday, May 10th. Okay, our final live Zoom meeting, Tuesday, May 10th. Then the final exam will open at the end of our final Zoom meeting. So when we finish at 8:35, excuse me, we start at 6:30, we end at 6:30, 8:35, then you will have 48 hours to complete the final exam. And that means the final exam is due at 8:45 p.m. on Thursday, May 12th. And I cannot accept any final exams submitted after 8:45 Thursday, May 12th. And that's because of a college rule, right? There's a college rule that I have to give you a timed writing test. Usually teachers use that to say you only have 2 hours. I'm going to give you 48 hours. And why Thursday, May 12th? Well, that is because Thursday, May 12th is the day that our final exam is scheduled, okay? If you look at the ARC Spring 2022 final exam schedule, you'll see that our class is scheduled from 6:30 to 8:30 Thursday, May 12th. So it's still going to be due at that 8:30 p.m. time, but instead of opening it for just 2 hours, I'm going to give you 48 hours. So it's still timed, but again, college rules. Jeff loves his job and wants to keep his job. If it's got to be in at 8:45, that's it. I cannot be flexible about that because it is a college rule. So again, on the last day, I'm going to prepare you. I'll show you the questions. I will answer questions. It's not going to be a major, long, huge essay. It's going to be much more like personal response, individual example writing. It's not some massive, big research project. I think, hopefully you agree, 48 hours is going to be a fair and appropriate amount of time. I'm not going to ask you to do something crazy with only 48 hours, okay? So any questions about this, just the due dates and the times and anything, because what it is and what I have you do, I will talk about that on our final Zoom meeting. But any questions about this stuff?
Hello, good afternoon. Hi, I'm calling you from Honolulu, so it's 3:30.
Hey, aloha.
Aloha. Okay, I would like you to tell us, if you can, of course, if the last assignment will be a narrative or what kind of assignment it will be. Thank you.
It'll be, like I said, a personal reflection. It won't be about a book. It will just be about your thoughts, opinions, and experiences about this class. You will not need to research. You will not need to paraphrase. It's just going to be you answering several questions about your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. So you don't need to prep. You don't need to read. It's just a chance for you to think about what we learned in this class. So it's something like reflective writing and response writing, somewhere in the middle there, Draga. And like I said, I'll talk all about it in our final Zoom meeting when I introduce the final exam on Tuesday, May 10th. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Make sense? Cool. I promise it's not too scary. You will have to do some writing, right? But it's not scary. And usually I tell students it should not take you more than 90 minutes, right? Don't stress. You're gonna have to write, so set some time aside, right? You're gonna have to spend an hour, 2 hours, or whatever doing some writing here, but you don't need to. It's not gonna take 10 hours. So just give yourself that time window, just to give you a heads up, right? So after class, you have 48 hours. So make sure you set aside, give yourself an hour or 2 hours to spend writing about your experience in this class. I saw a little yellow hand. Thank you, Fauzia. Anybody else before I finish and go to the academic writing project, the big project? Oh, I feel like I'm going to sneeze here, but maybe not. Cool. All right, more business then, huh? So I'm going to talk about the academic writing project. It is now live in Canvas. You can see it now. So let me change it to student view. So here is our home page. And if you go to assignments, and now you should see it here. Oh, see, I'm example student. I have overdue assignments. I have late assignments. I'm a bad example student. I'm behind, but here it is, upcoming assignments, academic writing project. Again, as always, all the information is here on the page, but you know that I like to use the Word document, so you can preview it or download it, whatever format is best for you. But I already have it open down here, so that's what I'm gonna do. Let me put it onto the big screen here. And this is it, you guys. This is our last thing. This is the last thing really of the semester. So let's look at it together. All right. Can everybody see? Is this big enough? Okay. I saw one. Thank you, Parisa. Thank you, Morris. Little yellow hands. Thank you. All right. So academic writing project. And let me say, I said comment in the chat. Yes, perfect. Instructions. For your final project this semester, I'm asking you to practice some of the most important skills in academic writing: summarizing, paraphrasing, and responding to texts. I'm not asking you to write a full research paper because this is something you will do in English Writing 300 or ESLW 340. However, all of the skills that you will practice in this project will help prepare you for writing assignments in a transfer level English course. Please read the information below and pay special attention to the structure section on page 2. Here comes my sneeze. Didn't come, just getting a little itch in my nose. Sorry about that, you guys. Due dates. Remember, this is one of the only assignments with a due date. So as a result, barring truly extraordinary circumstances, late work can't be accepted. Another reason why it is hard to accept late work is the due date for this is our final Zoom, right? So you've got 3 weeks for this project, just again, like I promised you a few weeks ago, right? So the due date is Tuesday, May 10th. I didn't put a time here, but I'm not stressed. If you want to do it at 11:59, that's fine. That's fine. And the reason for that is, as I say here, so unless you submit your first draft early or work on your project with me during office hours, there will not be enough time for revision and resubmission of this project. Now, I do take this into account when grading your work, but remember, I'm trying to give you as much time as possible to write this essay, right? But if you submit it Tuesday, May 10th, well, our semester is over Thursday, May 12th. So there's no time to revise and resubmit. So if you know you want feedback, it's going to be good to submit your draft early in Canvas, or come talk to me in office hours, or send me an email and say, Jeff, can you look at this, right? So just things to be aware of. Any questions about that or about the due date before I continue and tell you what I want you to do? Cool. Rubric. This is the biggie, right? This is the big assignment in this class. So it's worth 300 points, about 30% of your grade for this whole class. So how do those points sort of go in different categories? Uh-oh. The sneeze is driving me crazy. So summarizing. You successfully summarized what I asked you to summarize by identifying the main idea and using your own words to explain the main idea. 100 points for summarizing skills. Paraphrasing. You successfully paraphrased what I asked you to paraphrase by keeping the same meaning as the original text, using your own words to restate the meaning of the original text, and you used approximately the same number of words as the original text. Originality and effort. Your final response shows originality, careful thought, and obvious effort. I will show you what I mean here, which part of this assignment I'm talking about with the points here. Editing is worth 30 points. Your writing is free of major grammatical and mechanical errors, including capitalization, punctuation, spelling, sentence structure, verb forms. And length. The total assignment is 1,600 words, so 20 points for 1,600 words. But as I will show you here, 1,600 sounds like a lot of words. It is a lot of words, but it's not a 1,600 word essay. So let me explain to you the structure and what I'm asking you to do here, okay? So I am not asking you to write a traditional 5-paragraph essay for this project. Instead, I'm asking you to write 4 specific sections, like we've seen for the last, 6 weeks. Sections, headers, right? Things in bold, breaking it out, bullet points, lists, all of the different structural things that we've talked about for this type of reading and writing. So I'm asking you to write 4 specific sections, and I will ask you to practice a specific academic writing skill in each section. As a result, this is good news. You do not need to write a traditional introduction or conclusion paragraph for this project. Instead, you should use headers for each section, just like the headers that Bailey used in Hyperfocus. Please use the instructions below to write and organize your project. And as I say here, if you still have questions about how to structure your essay on the page, please bring those questions to class and or student hours. So I'm trying to give you very clear instructions for each section here. I'm going to go through them and then it will be time for questions, okay? So section 1, summarize. So here I'm asking you to summarize 500-word minimum. And here I'm asking you to summarize the 3 styles of scatter focus. This starts on page 142, continues on to page 150. And again, trying to make the instructions really clear here. And this will look very similar to when I asked you to practice the 4 types of tasks, right? All the examples that we've talked about for the last 2 weeks that we were together. So in your summary, be sure to properly introduce the text that you will summarize. Briefly explain Bailey's definition of scatter focus, and then clearly summarize the 3 styles of scatter focus, right? So again, this should feel very similar to the 4 types of task assignment that we talked about, looked at the examples, and I gave you feedback for, right? So that's section 1, summarizing 500 words, the 3 styles of scatter focus. Then section 2, paraphrasing. Now this, notice please, says 100-word maximum. Maximum is serious. You don't need, I don't want you to try and write 300 words, 200 words, whatever. I'm trying to limit you to only 100 words. And I want you to paraphrase the first 4 paragraphs of Rest is Not Idleness on page 169. Let me show this to you real quick, even though it'll be a little bit different on the electronic copy here. I want to make this very clear for people who are watching the recording. There we go. 169. Here it is. So as I say in my document here, you guys, so paraphrase the first 4 paragraphs of Rest is Not Idleness on page 169. Only summarize the first 4 paragraphs from, and then I give you the quotes. It doesn't feel right to, teacher typo, step back and rest to reflect on when you were the most productive, creative, or happy, and consider the conditions that led to that state. That means here, it often doesn't feel right to step back and rest, right? As I say here, it doesn't feel right to step back and rest. 2, here's paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's the last sentence of paragraph 4, right? All you have to do is reflect and when you reflect on when you were the most productive, creative, happy, and consider. So I'm asking you to paraphrase these 4 paragraphs in 100 words or less. That's what this section is all about. That's what this section is all about. I don't know why it's giving me some ugly formatting here, but let's see. See if I can get this correct here. You see me being a little obsessive, but I guess that it just wants to highlight that. That's okay. So you don't need to do this. You don't need this. Don't worry about the box, but just these 4 paragraphs, okay? That is what I'm asking you to paraphrase. That is what I'm asking you to paraphrase. Questions at all about section 1 and 2? Because I've got 2 more sections, but now's a good time to stop if people have questions about what to do. If you have instructions, questions.
Yes, I have a question. You said about the maximum, for example, in section 2, but what about like section 3 that it says like minimum 500 words is, does it have a maximum?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Good question, Liz. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. Yeah, I think 500 is fair. I think if people do end up writing, you know, I asked you guys to write 700, 750 word summaries. So if you feel like you do want to use 3 paragraphs to summarize, you know, this is about 7 or 8 pages, 7.5 pages. Absolutely, Liz. The most important thing is to get the main idea, for sure, for sure. Great question. Anybody else questions about the instructions here for section 1, section 2? Let's look at section 3. Section 3, you're going to summarize again. So section 3 is summarize, 500-word minimum. Summarize the section collecting more valuable dots. This starts on 187 and continues to 195. In your summary, again, I'm trying to be very clear about what I want you to do. In your summary, be sure to properly introduce the text that you will summarize. Briefly explain Bailey's definition of dots. And do not, here's, I'm telling you what not to do. Do not include all of the 10 suggestions and examples that Bailey provides. Remember, focus on the main idea and the details. So if you have not read this part of the book here, let me bring it up so you know what I'm talking about here. If you look at here, I think it's connecting even more dots. Collecting more valuable dots, excuse me. I got my page number wrong. Here we go. Where'd they put the header though here? Ah, there we go. Again, the electronic copy is very strange, but on my paper copy, let me show you here. Got the page. I want to make sure I get it right here. 187. So again, it looks like this on page 187. I want to show you my messy room, you guys. Might have to though. Starts here, right? 187. Collecting more valuable dots. Collecting more valuable dots on page. I can do this. I can do it backwards. 187 on page 187. Let me go back to ARC here. There we go. So if I look though back in the electronic copy of the book, even though the formatting is strange, notice here that when I say do not just summarize, you don't need to summarize. 1, consume all the things. 2, eliminate trash. 3, I'm telling you, do not just summarize all 10 of these. These are examples that he provides to explain his main idea, right? So we talked about this a lot, right? For I think the last 2 or 3 weeks before spring break. How many examples? What's a good way to use examples? Should I use every example? Should I only include the most important examples? That's what I'm asking you to practice here, right? So in the instructions, I'm trying to be very clear. Do not include all 10, right? You should. You're going to include some, but don't just summarize that list. Okay, I want the main idea. As I say here, remember, focus on the main idea, not the details. And the last section is response writing. And here it is, the last, we're almost done. I'm almost done explaining the structure for this assignment. And here it is. So response writing, at the end of his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey argues that hyperfocus can allow people to, quote, get an extraordinary amount done in a short period of time, whereas scatter focus allows people to connect new ideas, increase creativity, and get better rest. He claims using hyperfocus and scatter focus together will ultimately empower people to work and live with purpose. And here's the page number, right? I introduced the page, so no page here, you know, same page. Do you agree or disagree with Bailey's argument? Use personal examples to support your response. In your examples, provide at least one example of hyperfocus and one example of scatter focus in your own life. Then explain how these two skills work or do not work together to create purpose in your own life. Now, again, if you have not finished the book, if you have not started section 2, you probably are like, I don't know what Jeff is asking me. That's fine, right? But this is what I want to, but as you finish the book, right? As you get ready, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, but this is the way for us to sort of bring it all together at the end for have you write some kind of response about these two ideas and how they work together, okay? So section 4 is 500 words. Section 3 is 500 words. Section 2 is 100-word maximum for your paraphrase, and section 1 is summarizing 500 words. So again, you don't need an intro, you don't need a hook, you don't need to worry about organizing this like an essay. You just need to have section headers like we see all over this book, and to clearly say, okay, here's section 3, here's where I'm going to summarize collecting more valuable dots, you know. So hopefully that helps you with structure, and you can really just focus on these skills: summarizing, paraphrasing, and response writing. Questions? It's clear? Everything's clear?
Yes, at least now.
Okay, that's good. You do have 3 weeks, so absolutely, right? Liz says everything's clear for now. That's good. I'll take that. Anybody else? Questions, ideas? Cool. Okay. Well, happy teacher when things are clear. So remember, this is here on the assignments page. This is the final big academic writing project. All the instructions are here on the page with the rubric, and you can just download the assignment sheet that we just looked at together. Okay. So like Liz was saying there, things are clear for now, but no, I'm gonna make myself big for a second here. You know, I was sort of thinking about what to do for these last 3 weeks, how to make the best use of our time, what can help support you the most. So I will just say, if things seem clear with this academic writing project today, but as you start or as you keep reading, or you have a very specific question, bring it to class. Bring it to class next week. Bring it to class in 2 weeks. Let's talk about it, right? I think, you know, part of my goal for our class tonight is to just help you practice some of the skills that will help you to feel more comfortable for this final writing project. So as always, you know, I can have ideas, examples, lecture materials, and all that good stuff, but I still think the best use of our time at the end here is if you can help me help you, right? Like, what's the best way to help you? What do you guys need? Are they going to share my screen again? What do you guys need to do this project? That's kind of my goal for the last few weeks here, just so you understand where I'm at, as we can say in California, right? What I'm thinking, where I'm at. Does that make sense? Or any other questions before we stop talking about this? Yeah, Fauzia, please.
Professor, so I have a question. So about the previous works, about the projects, whatever we done before, it was all about the summary, like response summary. So I'm a little confused about the paraphrase. I think we did, or I did not recognize that we did practice about the paraphrasing, or we just practice about the summary and also response.
We've talked about paraphrasing. I didn't give you a big paraphrasing activity in Canvas because it's not like a 500 word. You know, I think we've practiced paraphrasing, but just not in a big lesson in Canvas. So if you feel like you want more practice with paraphrasing, we can focus on that tonight for sure.
Yeah, Professor, thank you so much.
Yeah, but that's this again. I've got sort of repeat slides here. So just so you know, remember, this is the way we've talked about paraphrasing here. I've got this slide for what it is and when do we do it. And just so people remember sort of where some of these materials are and some of the Zoom meetings that we've talked about. If you go to the course materials page here, there's this entire workbook that I took some of the notes and some of the examples here for quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing, right? This is from the MLA writing guidebook. So if you want to see more examples, have ideas, have questions, you can go back and watch some of the other videos. You can look at some of these PDFs, and maybe that's just something we need to focus on and practice more tonight too. So
yeah, Professor, my concern is about whatever we learn, we study, it is different. But when we practice, it is different. So this is
Okay.
what I'm thinking. So we did not practice the paraphrase. We just like study, like we study the book, like this. We did not practice. That is why I'm concerned about. So if
Okay.
possible, let me practice about the paraphrase, at least just one paragraph, two paragraph. It will be good
Yeah,
for
I've
me.
got at least one example quote tonight. I think, and I'll say this for anyone, if people feel like Fauzia a little bit, remember, anytime you're summarizing though, you're kind of, there's always some paraphrasing there, right? Because you're taking the same idea and you're putting it in your own words. Remember, we've talked about this a couple times. The biggest difference between summarizing and paraphrasing is summarizing takes it, if something's long and you make it short. Paraphrase is something that's a smaller amount and you keep it about the same length, right? So that's another reason that I don't ask you to practice this over and over and over in Canvas again. It can feel a little bit, I don't know, it can make people feel a little go crazy. But anytime you're summarizing, you are using some of those same skills, right? You need to understand the idea of what you read. You need to put it in your own words and get the most important information in there. So yeah, we've got, let's see what I've got this. I've got this slide in here for a reason today, so Draga, please.
I'm wondering if you will maybe provide us somebody's, maybe yours or somebody's else assignment that we can have it in the front of our eyes while we are doing ours, as you provided last time.
I don't think so though, Draga, because I don't want people to see other people's I think I'll think about how to use student examples effectively here, but I don't want to show you other people's summaries for the exact same thing, especially with 3 weeks. I mean, I think it's more important that you go back and look at some of the other examples that we've already looked at. We can practice this more together, as opposed to looking at this exact project. I think it's important that people kind of start to make connections between these skills that we've been practicing and kind of do it for the first time. But I'll think about it, right? We've got 3 weeks. I will think about how to use student examples. I mean, 2 weeks ago was just, one whole class was looking at a student example. So I'll think about it. I'll think about it for sure. Didia.
Hi, Professor. Sorry, I arrived late. I have a headache.
No problem.
I want to ask you, thank you. I want to ask you something about also paraphrasing. How can we put the same exact amount of word if we are going to use our own words, and all the time you'd have to think about it and try to change the original words and put it on your own?
Yep.
But all the time is bigger. So how could we leave the exactly kind of amount that you are asking us paraphrasing if we are going to change it the own words, and sometimes is bigger?
Well, you can free your mind of the exactly, right? This is, if you remember here, the paraphrase here. So how do we do it, right? It says replace the word in the original text with synonyms, and it should be about the same length, right, as the original. But I don't want you to feel like you need to count every, should we just go to an example? Maybe we should just go to an example. Let's look at this. So this was my activity here. So maybe instead of calling this our warm up, let's just go straight to paraphrasing. Okay. This is, let me find my page here. I think this was page, did I write this down? 76. Okay, if you have your paper book, this is on page 76, the very top of page 76. And if I look at my electronic copy here, let me try and find it to show you guys. There we go. So it starts here, right? Page 76, why we love distractions. And here's the quote. This is from the very first paragraph here. Let's just use this as our example to practice paraphrasing. So remember, the basic idea for before we practice though, so people were, Fauzi was sort of saying, okay, more practice would be good. Drago was talking about examples. Do I need to explain paraphrasing, or are we just ready to practice? If we're just ready to practice, can you give me a little yellow thumbs up? Let's just practice instead of Jeff explaining what it is.
I think
If we-
practice is correct because
Okay,
it's
okay.
better for understand.
Good. Okay, perfect. Set off. Yeah, yellow hand or yellow thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Mhm.
so here it is, page 76. I'm going to give you whatever, let's say 5 minutes. If we need 10 minutes, if you need more time, put it in the chat and we'll look at your examples together. Okay, so here's the quote, and I want you to paraphrase it. There is a simple reason why we fall victim to distractions. Even though we know they're unproductive, in the moment, they are much more enticing than our own work. When our brain is even slightly resisting a task, it hunts for more attractive things to do instead. So remember, academic writing. Academic writing includes things like summarizing and paraphrasing and not responding. Let me stop that. Academic writing includes things like summarizing and paraphrasing. Should we use second person pronouns in this paraphrase? So I don't want we, I don't want we, I don't want our. So right away, you're going to change some of the words there right away by changing the pronouns, okay? And again, before I have you write, remember, the most important thing to do for a paraphrase is to understand the text. So let's talk about this together before I just ask you to write. I'll read it again. There is a simple reason why we fall victim to distractions. Even though we know they're unproductive in the moment, they are much more enticing than our work. When our brain is even slightly resisting a task, it hunts for more attractive things to do instead. Let's start with the topic. Remember, the topic is just sort of what this is, what we're talking about. Before we start about the main idea, what are we talking about here? What's the topic of these 3 sentences? In one word.
Distraction.
So that's right. For sure. This is absolutely, and again, how do we know that? Well, another way that we could know that is look at the header, right? What's the header right above this quote? Right before this quote, why we love what? Distractions.
Distraction.
And then distractions, right? These are, again, those critical reading skills that are going to help you identify the main idea. Okay, so we say our topic, what these sentences are about, is distractions. Now, someone just practice for me, anybody, you can type in the chat, say out loud, what about distractions? What is he saying about distractions in these sentences?
That we love it. We're enjoying it.
Okay, Didier is saying we love distractions. I agree. I do think that's part of there. And then do we have any other information about loving distractions, I think, in those second couple sentences?
Yes, is this because we are not like what I am doing at that time? For that reason, I obviously prefer distractions instead of continue doing the boring things that maybe I am doing at that time.
Yes, good. And I would say I hear it in what Didier is saying, but if maybe you're watching or you're listening and you're thinking, there's another key word here, right? So the main idea is that we love distractions, and we could even say the main idea to or connected, or maybe they're both the same here, right? Is why we love distractions, right? Because there is absolutely this quote. Absolutely, it says first, it just says we love distractions, right? But then this is another important thing to understand what the author is doing in these sentences. This quote is explaining why we love distractions. Now, there's a key vocabulary word here that maybe we don't know what it means yet, but it's giving us some information about this why. What is that key word? And Draga, I see your hand, so you can answer my question or ask your own question. There it is. Asha put it in the chat. Absolutely. Thank you, Asha. Yes. Now, remember, we talked about when you're paraphrasing, you might need to use a little bit of translation. You might need to use a dictionary. If you see a word like this and you're like, ooh, this, I'm only supposed to paraphrase like a paragraph. I kind of need to know what this word is. What's a synonym for enticing?
Entertaining.
There we
Something,
go.
yeah. Something
Enticing,
catching, something
entertaining.
attractive.
Yeah, I would say interesting. We could say attractive. Yeah, I think, is that one of the words in here too? Attractive. Yes, he does put that word,
Yeah,
more
and
attractive.
I think what is important to say about distractions, we cannot, we most of the times cannot choose what we want to do, which task to do. We are supposed to do that, whether we like it or not, but we choose distractions we like.
Yes. Now, Draga is correct, but and is that idea in these 3 sentences yet, Draga, or is that later in the book?
It is not in the first paragraph, but probably later. I read everything, but I cannot.
I know you did. I just want to make sure. Remember, paraphrasing, this is like Fauzia's question. Paraphrasing, just stick to what's on the page. Just stick to what's in those, right? For the last assignment, I'm giving you 4 paragraphs. So you don't need to include other information, even if it's interesting, even if it's true, even if it's connected. You know, I'm asking you to really just, in this one little tiny way, right? Really focus only on paraphrasing. Okay, so we've got the main idea here, right? This is a few sentences that he writes about distractions. There's an idea about we love them. And then the author also explains why we love them. We love them because they're interesting, they're enticing. And what's this idea here? When our brain is even slightly resisting a task, it hunts for more attractive things to do. What's the most important word in that sentence?
Resisting.
Yeah, we're doing. You guys are ready for this writing. Yeah, I think so too. And again, if we're not sure what that word resisting is, or we need a synonym, look it up. Go to thesaurus.com. Use your Google Translate, whatever resource you guys use for synonyms or other vocabulary building. Make sure we understand the meaning of that word resisting. So if our brain is even resisting, fighting, doesn't want to do it, what does it do? It hunts for more attractive things to do instead. Now, before I ask you to practice typing and putting your examples in the chat, are we clear on the meaning of these 3 sentences? Because remember, that's job number 1. Be an effective reader. Use our critical reading skills that we just did together to make sure you understand exactly what you're going to paraphrase. So before you write, questions, we good? We understand the meaning of these 3 sentences? All right. I'll go ahead and just as an example here, show you. Let's just keep it simple. So I'll even give you the beginning of your paraphrase, right? In his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey says, start with that, or if you want to try something different, go for it. But I'll give you a few minutes. I'll keep this on the screen, right? I'll keep this on the screen for you. But this is what I want you to paraphrase. Put it in the chat as soon as you're ready. So this is 3 sentences. Do your best. Try to make your paraphrase 3 sentences. Now, Didier was asking about word count, but I don't need you to go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, I don't want you to count and say this is 45 words, but try and give me 3 sentences about the same length that paraphrase these ideas. Okay, that's what we'll practice right now, and then we can do another example together. Make sense what I want you to do? Okay, I'm going to mute myself. As soon as you have an example, put it in the chat. I'll give you at least 6 or 7 minutes, and if you need more time, we can always add more time. I'm on mute, but I'm here. Let me know if you need me. So that was about 5 minutes, you guys. I'll give you another 3 or 4 minutes. So it makes sense that when we practice, we go slow, but don't stress too much, right? Part of what we can do tonight is to help me, let me encourage you to say, you don't need to stress too much, right? Like, let's just see some examples and then we'll look at it together. So I'll give you another 3 minutes or so. I've only got one example. So I'd love to see at least 2 more examples, you guys, please.
Professor, I wrote it and sent in chat on your name. Is that okay?
I've already got it in the doc, Draga. Yeah, we'll look at it.
Okay.
Me too, Professor, but I think it's more than 3 phrases. It's
No
longer.
problem. That's okay. That's not a problem. We'll look at it together. I'm going to add the page number. Remember, when we're paraphrasing, we are still doing MLA in text because it's not our ideas. Perfect. I've got Draga, I've got Didia.
Professor Jeff, I'm on cell phone, so I didn't use it italic for the title of the book. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No problem at all. Cool. I got 3. Let's do another 2 minutes just in case anybody else. I've got 3. We can look at them together, but just in case anybody else is able to write right now and wants to look at their own example. I'll give you guys 2 minutes, then we'll look at what we got. All right, let's do it. If you're still working, cool. But let's look at some examples together. I'm not sure, it might be getting close to sunset time, so maybe people had to step away, of course, but let's look at some examples. Okay, so just so we look at our original here, there is a simple reason why we fall victim to distractions. Even though we know they're unproductive, in the moment they are much more enticing than our work. When our brain is even slightly resisting a task, it hunts for more attractive things to do instead. And here I'm just sort of doing a, this we could even say is like a full, just a quote, right? This would be like a full in-text citation, right? But let's see our examples. So in his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey argues that attractive but unproductive distractions are more interesting for people than given, often bored tasks, which people's brains sometimes resist to do. We've got good keywords in here. Distractions in the first sentence, just like we have in the original, which is great. Even though we know they're unproductive, in the moment, they are much more enticing than our work. Argues that attractive but unproductive distractions are more interesting for people than given often bored tasks. Than given often bored. Then given is a little bit unclear. Then given tasks. I think let's just start with the structure. So again, this is if we are thinking about, right, just to compare, this is 28 words. This is 46 words. Now again, only in 325. Please never do this as you keep going and feeling more comfortable. But I'd say this paragraph is only one sentence. It's a nice sentence. It's got good structure, but it feels a little bit fast. This feels a little bit more like a summary than a paraphrase. Now again, I'm kind of being very, very detailed here and very narrow and specific. But I think, remember, a big clue, like I'm thinking of Fauzia's question, right? Sort of what's the guidelines for us as we think about examples? Well, about the same number of sentences is a pretty good guideline. So I think we could break this up into at least 2 sentences. So in his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey argues that attractive but unproductive distractions are more interesting for people. We could say something like that, right? Or for many people. Another good thing to do is when you're paraphrasing or you're sort of writing, oh, this other person said this, you can use modal verbs, right? Unproductive distractions can be more interesting for many people, right? He says this is because people's, and this is where I love a great word that this student used here is boring, which I think is great. That's not a word in here, this word boring, but this is a great example of a student getting the deeper meaning from the original quote and putting it in the paraphrase. I love that word boring. So we could add something like, he says this is because people's work, jobs, things they must do are often boring. And then again, we could do a transition word here, right? Also, he claims, he says, he argues, right, that if a task is boring, people's brains, and then we can keep exactly, will sometimes resist. Sometimes resist doing it. Maybe it'd be better to make this plural. If tasks are boring, people's brains will sometimes resist doing them. Yeah. So in his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey argues that attractive but unproductive distractions can be more interesting for many people, can be more interesting than work or something. I think it's good to include what it's more interesting than. He says this is because people's work, jobs, things they must do are often boring. Also, he claims that if tasks are boring, people's brains will sometimes resist doing them. Yeah, so here we've got I think the main things I changed with this example was to just make the structure of these sentences. This is 48 words. I've been doing this job too long, you guys. Notice that I did not know that I would do it. I'm looking at the word count down here. Oh, it's 46. Okay, it's 46. So the original is 46. I wrote 48. And again, partly this is just because I've been doing this so long, but hopefully you can see the difference between the original. And let me go back to the original here. Ooh, I've got another example from Asha in here as well. I'll put the student original and then my suggestions. Just so you can see a sort of side by side, right? Questions, does this make sense? Why my suggestions and the difference between the two? The first one still had the main idea. I think it just felt a little bit more like a summary. It felt like trying to get 3 sentences into one, which is a super useful skill, but it's a little bit different than just straight up paraphrasing. You know, Didier, please.
Yes, Professor, I make some list that the things that we don't forget, we must not forget. For example, no use we are our, as you said. Use the same long. Try to looking for the main idea and looking for synonyms.
Yep.
And also don't forget citation, because I didn't put it on the name
Yep.
of the author and the
Yep.
page.
Yep.
And use transitions words and obviously understand everything to try to put it on everything. So
Yep.
I missed something.
No, you got it great. And I'm just sort of looking at my edits right now. I'm thinking of when Didier was saying transition words, right? Absolutely. From the student original, I added this is because. Absolutely, right? I think that, like the student was saying, that the title, you know, there's little things, but make sure you have the page number here. This student did a great job introducing the book and the author. Absolutely. And like I said, approximately, right? Approximately the same length. And again, I think it's really good for you guys to practice paraphrasing after summarizing, because now for 2 weeks you've been learning, make it shorter. And now the focus is on the meaning, right? So about the same length, we've got the title and the author. I added some transition conjunctions, right? Because and also. What else was on your great list, Didier?
Pardon?
What else was, I'm trying to show your great list. I was trying to show.
Yeah, don't use we, our,
Yeah.
and the same length. Looking for the keywords and put synonyms.
That was what I wanted to say. Another thing that this student did very, very well in the original example, and we've talked about this many times, and it's so difficult, right? You'll talk about it in 340. You'll keep talking about it as you learn. But when do we use a synonym and when do we just keep the same word? Well, I think it's good to keep distraction. Don't feel like, okay, well, I can't use the same word, so I need to go to thesaurus.com and I need to find a synonym for distraction. And I'm going to say aberration. Okay, that's good. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to say aberration. No, don't do that. Right? Some of the most important keywords from the original, at least for me, if a teacher, you know, if another teacher says, hey, this is going to hurt your grade, do what your teacher says. But for me, you know, if you've identified a really important, I got to find where did my document go here? There we go. If you've identified a keyword, distraction is a really important word, right? But here's a great example where this student did interesting for enticing. Fantastic, right? There was another one I wanted to use, like Didier's example. More interesting, often bored. I think, again, I was really happy that this student used the word boring, even though that wasn't in the original. That's an example of sort of your own ideas, your own synonyms, right? Maybe was it resist? Yes, that was it. I think resist is a great keyword, notice. And here the student added resist and kept it. So I'm not saying there's one perfect way to understand, well, okay, Jeff, when can I use the exact same word and when should I use a synonym? That's what we're practicing. That's tricky. But if it's one of the most important ideas in the original, for me in this class, don't be afraid of just using that same word instead of going, uh-oh, I'll say, what was another example I got backed up here. There it is. A distraction, complication, confusion, disturbance, diversion, interference, right? If you don't know what the synonym is, don't use it. Any other? So I love Didier's list. That was fantastic. And I was just trying to show you how I did that in this example, Didier, to make sure that, you know, this is representative. This represents that great list that you've got.
Thank you.
Yes. Hello, Professor.
Yes, please, Lasana.
Yeah. I have some question about because the meaning of the idea in the original text and the
Okay.
summary text.
Yep.
Because when I read this man, I don't see like a comparison between the boring thing and the work. Because you say in your paraphrasing, you say
Yes.
the Bailey argued that attractive but unproductive distraction can be more interesting than work for many people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where's the contrast? Yeah, so where's the contrast in the original?
For me, yes, I'm trying to find that part.
Good, great question. Yeah, I think it's in there, but I think you're right. I don't think he has them. I think he has it in different sentences. So look at it here. There's a simple reason why we fall victim to distractions, right? Why we get distracted, why we become distracted.
Yeah.
Even though we know they're unproductive, here the pronoun is referring back to distractions, right? So here, their distractions are unproductive. In the moment, they are much more enticing than our work. So here's a little bit of the contrast. And part of this is pronoun, like we talked about pronouns a lot in this class because they're so important. Here's the contrast. Distractions is introduced here. The pronoun represents distractions, and he contrasts them by saying they're much more enticing than work. So those are he's introducing this thing, work and distractions, and he's kind of comparing them. And then we get the final sentence. When our brain is even slightly resisting a task, which is a synonym for work, it hunts for more attractive things to do. And well, what's more attractive? What's enticing? The distractions.
Oh, okay.
Does that help? Listen, it's a great question.
Yes, yes.
Now, you know me, I'm always trying to think about color coding here. So more attractive links with distractions and enticing. Unproductive, like Draga did for us in her example, unproductive links with distractions as well. Ooh, yeah, that's green too. Hold on. Work, let's make work red. And work is the same as task. And now this is where I was complimenting Draga's example, because you're absolutely correct, Lasana. He doesn't give us an adjective, right? He doesn't give us an adjective to describe the work. He only says they're more enticing than our work. They're more attractive than our work. So I think Draga's choice of the word boring is really strong because it's like, it's implied almost. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Such a good question. Lasana's always got really like the questions that are really good for the details. I love it. Fantastic. Does that make sense what I was, and everybody, does that make sense what I was explaining to Lasana there? How we can, again, I would say that Draga used like a critical reading skill there, right? We understood the meaning even though it wasn't explicitly said word for word in the original. Yeah, amazing, 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 really, really good. Asha, is this the new one? Asha's got some edits, got it. Asha's got revisions, I love it. Hey, if you're revising in the moment, you're doing great. Okay, let's look at the next one. And these next two should go a little bit faster for us since we've already looked at one and spent some more details here. That was Asha's, but I also had Didya's. Yes, please. Okay. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Computer stuff. There we go. Okay. So here's the original, student original. People can be easily distracted for a reason. It is known that it is not functional, but it is more attractive than usual work. When the unconscious resists, it seeks to modify the task. This is good. I mean, the sentence structure is almost exactly the same. What should we include right away at the beginning?
Yeah.
Something like this. Maybe just so I show you guys more examples, right? 76, excuse me. And maybe I'll do it the different way, excuse me. Maybe I'll show you, I just want to show you another example. Just so we see how we can put the author's last name in the parentheses, right? So the book Hyperfocus suggests that people can be easily distracted for a reason. Again, great job including a key word here that we said is important. It is known that it is not functional, but it is more attractive than the usual work. Now, here's where I'm going to talk about pronouns again. It is known that it is not. What's the pronoun here?
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry, Didier. Do you know what it is? What do you think it is, Didier? Or could you, if I say, what's this pronoun referring to? What do you think it is?
Oh my gosh.
I think this is that contrast that Lasana was talking about. I think you're kind of just, I think a transition word here could help this.
Oh.
Anybody? I'll give you my suggestion. Does anybody want to offer in a suggestion, or Didier, you want to make an edit before I tell you what I think?
Oh.
It's.
You just want to do a contraction, Lasana?
Yes, I'm trying.
I think now's a good time to add a contrast transition, like Lasana was talking about. How about this?
However, or
Yeah, I think this is an aunque. I think this is an even though. Even though people know that this is not functional, and functional's fine, synonym here, that's fine. Effective, whatever we could say, useful, functional, effective, successful, something, whatever. Even so, instead of but, we've got our even though at the beginning of this sentence, right? So even though people know that this is not functional, useful, effective, or successful, and here's where I think it's probably good to get rid of the pronoun, distractions are more attractive than the usual work. And now that contrast is really clear, right? Instead of just like kind of feeling it, it's in there. When the unconscious resists, it seeks to modify the task. And I think let's do this. It seeks to, instead of modify the task, this sounds a little bit general. What does it really want to do? When the unconscious resists, what does it want to do? Does it want to work or does it want to be distracted, Didier?
distracted.
Exactly. right? I'm just curious about how many words now. Yeah, 39. So just about the same number of words. So the book Hyperfocus suggests that people can be easily distracted for a reason, even though people know that this is not functional, useful, effective, successful. Distractions are more attractive than the usual work. When the unconscious resists, it seeks to be distracted. I think we've got the same meaning here. Do those changes make sense, Didier? Or what do you think, seeing my suggestions?
No, yes, perfectly, yeah.
Cool. Anybody else questions or ideas? I know I'm moving kind of fast now, but.
Yes,
Lasana,
I have a
please.
question. Yeah.
Yep.
It's about the book.
Yep.
The book suggests, the author suggests,
Yeah.
in the book Hyperfocus, this author suggests.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's different ways to do it. I was just trying to show you a different way to introduce the book and then put the author's last name in the parentheses here. But again, I just want to show you options because you'll see this maybe in other textbooks or other examples. But I will again say, when you do this in the book Hyperfocus, Bailey says, claims, argues, whatever, this is kind of just classic writing. So this is never wrong, Lasana. I just wanted to show you a different example.
Okay.
Yep. Cool. So again, there's the original and there's the Professor Jeff's edits so people can see them side to side. And let's look at one more for this quote. Let me make sure I've got your most recent one here, Asha. And I'll put this document into Canvas for you guys. In the book, in his book, Hyperfocus, no quotes, just italics, Bailey explains why people fall victim to distractions. Okay, I think fall victim is not a keyword and something that we could do a paraphrase or a synonym for. Now, fall victim is tricky, of course, for language learners because it's almost like an idiom, right? Fall victim to, what does that mean? What does fall victim to distractions? What's that mean in the way normal people talk? What does that mean?
Why people get distracted?
Yeah, you just made me so happy, Lasana. You really just, you really did. Yeah, that's how we would talk. I agree. That's what I would say. Why do we get distracted? Maybe you'd hear people say become distracted. That sounds a little bit more formal to me. But yeah, Bailey explains why people get distracted. Despite knowing that distracting tasks are not productive, in the present moment, they're more attractive or tempting than their work. Excellent. The meaning is almost exactly the same here. Even though we know they're unproductive in the moment, they're much more enticing than our work. Despite knowing that distracting tasks are not productive, in the present moment, they're more attractive. Let's do tempting. I like tempting, tempting and enticing than their work. Despite knowing that distracting tasks are not productive, in the present moment, they're more, again, now I'm looking at pronouns. We know here, they're more distracting tasks. Very clear here. The pronoun there is talking about distracting, but this is not clear now because I'm not sure what they're more tempting than, maybe we should just go back to this
People,
and put,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's right. Their brain, and then here, now this there is much more clear, right? Because I've got a noun right here, right? And so their brain, whose brain? People's brain. Their brain is fighting the intention to do work and instead looks or searches for, what's in the original? Searches for hunting. So good, Asha, really, really nice. Let's do searches for, it sounds, scholarly, for other appealing things to do since we use tempting above. Really fantastic, Asha. Really, really, really nice. So in his book, Hyperfocus, comma, Bailey explains why people get distracted. And Asha put the quote in the first paragraph, a sentence. That's fine, because we know we're all quoting from the same page. Notice I put it at the end, totally appropriate. Asha puts it at the first sentence, also appropriate. And why? Because it's all from the same page. So when you think about that in the academic writing project, it's going to be the same thing. I'm only asking you to paraphrase 4 paragraphs on the same exact page. So again, more examples of these in-text citation formats. So in his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey explains why people get distracted. Despite knowing that distracting tasks are not productive, in the present moment, they're more tempting than people's work. Their brain is fighting the intention to do work and instead searches for appealing things to do. I think this is great. I could even put another easy little baby transition here just to make the relationship between the sentences more clear. You've got great transitions already though, Asha. You don't need this, just a suggestion. Or as a result, you can sound, very university level student. Again, I'm thinking of Didier's list about including transition words or adverbs like this. So you could do that. You could add that as well. But I think this was a very strong paraphrase, very strong paraphrase. Questions, ideas? Asha says you make it look easy. I've been doing it for too long. Questions? I'm going to suggest we do one more. We've got 30 minutes and I don't have to talk about it as deeply, but should we just do one more? And we don't have to do the critical writing or reading thing together. I'll just show it to you, give you some time and we'll look at one more. Can I get yellow thumbs up if people want to do one more together? How are we doing? Could you share the document? Yes, of course, Liz. Liz is saying, yes, I definitely will share this document. Draga, please.
I agree to do one more summarizing or paraphrasing, whatever.
Yeah, let's put it there. I'll type it right now. It's on page 78 if you've got your paper book, and I'll show you in the electronic one in a section here, in a moment here, excuse me. Another great transition phrase there, you guys. In this respect, see, I'm paraphrasing even as I type, just how my brain works. And let me fix this, all my errors now here. This is 78. I define distraction, anything that can direct us away from our intentions. In this respect, distractions and interruptions are much the same thing. Great. Okay. This is on page 78. Let me show you just so you can see in the electronic version. Nope. There we go. Oh, I think it jumped. Here it is. Notice I highlighted this because I think this is one of the most important ideas in the whole book, you guys. So it's here on page 78, the 4 types of distractions. This is the beginning of paragraph number 2. And actually it is all of paragraph number 2 because he writes very short paragraphs. So I define a distraction as, so if you're looking on your paper book, that's what I'll do. So again, I'll just give you, 7-8 minutes. I'll project this back on the screen for you. But just for the sake of time, I won't do the full analysis for you. I'll let you do your own critical reading. Let's say 10 minutes. I'll say 10 minutes. If you type it in the chat sooner than that, I'll put it in. We'll look at it together. We got 30 minutes. I'm going to mute myself, set a 10-minute timer. I'm here if you need me. Let me zoom in for people. All right, go for it. Right, that was 5 minutes, so another 5 minutes to go. All right, my friends. 10 minutes. Does anybody have an example? Do we need more time? How we doing?
1 minute, please.
Okay. I was gonna say, or is it just 8:15, week 13? What's going on? Take another, let's say take another 5, and we'll have 15 minutes to look at it together. Cool. I got a few coming in now. Excellent. All right. Got a couple in here. If people are still working, please go ahead. But just to make sure we get time. All right. All right, our first example. In chapter 4 of his book, Hyperfocus, I know we can't italicize in chat. So in chapter 4 of his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey also argues about 4 types of distractions. One thing I'm going to say, if it's your first sentence, imagine this is the only thing I'm seeing. Your teacher is seeing, your reader is reading. This is the very first sentence. You don't need an also in here because it's your first sentence, right? The also doesn't make sense in the context of this little, paragraph we're working on. So in chapter 4 of his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey argues about 4 types of distractions. That's true, but in this paragraph, he's not explaining the 4 types of distractions. He's just defining what a distraction is, right? So I think here we can just say, explains that a distraction is, oh, excuse me, I got the word order wrong here. Bailey explains that a distraction is any kind of work that can take people's attention away from their work. So we've got some repeated words here. So we should definitely use 2 different words here, because I think any kind of work, I think we should get rid of work when we're talking about a distraction. Now let's go back to the original here. Anything that can direct us away from our intention. So here he just used anything, and I understand this student's trying to use a different noun, maybe a different pronoun here, but I think using work twice makes the meaning of the word unclear. So we could say, instead of any kind of work, maybe we could choose, instead of saying something, or excuse me, anything, something, or some activity, or anything. I mean, that's the same word we used in above, right? But any activity, whatever, let me spell it right for us, that can take people's intentions away from their work. That's nice. He claims that both distractions and interruptions are pretty much the same thing, are actually pretty much the same thing, because they drive people's attention away from their important tasks. Here, task or work would be really good here. Both are great. However, some interruptions may be crucial if they provide to people extremely valuable information regarding tasks they do. And let's just make this one sentence here. But people still have to control interruptions, which could take time from their important work. Really nice. However, some interruptions may be crucial. I'm going to do a big change here. Bailey acknowledges, and again, this is more like not like an analysis, right? But here's where you're describing LEDGES. You're describing what Bailey does, because you're absolutely correct to point this out, that Bailey is saying, hey, interruptions and distractions are the same thing. But he basically is saying, right, also, however, like this student had, some interruptions are essential. Some is a peach, but most of them are worth taming. So here's the contrast. So if we change it to Bailey acknowledges, instead of just repeating his own words, we give the reader who's reading the paraphrase, we say, hey, Bailey says interruptions and distractions are the same, but he also acknowledges, he says, hey, some interruptions may be crucial if they provide, and maybe I could get rid of people, if they provide extremely valuable information regarding tasks, and I'm going to move the pronoun here, that people are doing. But they still have to control interruptions, which take their time from their important work. Good, more pronoun stuff. I need to develop like a pronoun, writing pronouns or something like that. It's such a big thing. Questions. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm just talking to myself now, but did that make sense? The changes that I made? Any questions, any ideas? Cool.
So, Professor, can we use some words similar of the original paragraph as distractions, or maybe, I don't know, intentions?
I think so.
We also use it?
This is like I was saying in the first example, Didier, is I think I said a few, I was talked about this briefly, is I wish I could, I'm going to make my face big for a second here. I wish I could tell you the perfect rule, right? Okay, you can use the exact same word in this example, but you have to use a synonym in this one. There's no perfect rule, but the guideline should be, if it's a vocabulary word, especially a noun, that's a key word, or if it's a noun that's about the topic, right, whatever that paragraph is about, or if it's a really, really essential to the main idea, then I want you to feel comfortable in this class using that same word. I mean, this is about the 4 types of distractions. I think distraction's a really important word. So you don't need to feel like you need a synonym for the word distraction. You know, like that's essential to the meaning of the book that you're paraphrasing. Does that make some sense?
Yes, Professor, thank you.
But it's tricky. I mean, but like I said, when are you allowed to paraphrase or just use a synonym, and when can you just use the same word? I think it just takes practice and experience. So the short answer is yes. Sometimes you should just use the exact same word because it's maybe the most important word in the book, or that section of the book. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, let's look at one more. Who we got? I'm going to look at lesson as he just said it. Okay, student original. Professor Jeff's edits. In his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey defines distractions as anything that diverts, wait a minute. Sorry, that was yours, Asha. We might have time to look at yours, but I want to look at lesson. Much better. I was having some copy paste problems. So again, I'm going to put the page number here at the end, just to make sure we get our MLA citation. In his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey defines distractions as anything that, I'm going to give a verb, is able to disturb people's intention. Good. Oh, we can't see the screen. Thank you. Truly, thank you. Okay, Professor Jeff's edits. In his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey defines distractions as anything that is able to disturb people's intention. Let's look at the original. Define, the same word define, so maybe we can use a synonym here. Anything that can direct us away from our intentions. And Lasana said, anything that is able to disturb people's intention. I like disturb there is good. Bailey defines distractions. See, I'm thinking of Didier. This is a tricky one, right? He does define it. That's what he said. That's the same word he uses. So it's a fine balance. Like, is it just the same thing? Because if you just use the same exact words, you might as well just put it in a direct quote. You know, so let's see how many other words are similar. For him, I like that a lot, Lesana. For him, distractions and interruptions are similar because they make people unproductive. Really nice paraphrase here. Let's go back to the original. In this respect, distractions and interruptions are much the same thing because they both distance us from what we intend to accomplish. For him, distractions and interruptions are similar because they make people unproductive. Really nice. Again, I think using the same word because there is a really good move. Bailey claims some interruptions are useful when they're related to what people are currently doing, but most waste time. Really nice, Lasana. Really nice. It's a little short. Again, like if we're just thinking about in a perfect world, it's a little bit short, but I think you've got it. I don't think you need to change too much. And again, it's not just the adverbs or transition words. These little phrases where Lasana keeps referring back to the author are really nice signals, clues for the reader that this is, you know, someone else's ideas that Lasana is paraphrasing or summarizing or whatever we're doing, right? In his book, for him, Bailey claims. I think a really nice job referring back to the author of the original text in this example. Really nice. Any questions about Lasana's example or my small changes that I made to it?
Professor, so and to my list that I just read it to you, can I add these examples? For example, instead of transitions word, use for him, Bali's claim, but this is a good example, as Lasana put.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are good examples of how to keep referring back to the author. Now, that doesn't mean in the first example, including something like even though or however, that might be appropriate, right? But so it's not just those adverbs, those conjunctions. Often they're subordinating conjunctions, you know. It's not just those subordinators that you can use to create a meaning and connection between your sentences, but you can also clearly refer back to the author here. So again, I just think Lasana did that really well. For him, I think is really nice way to transition between sentences there, you know, even though it's not a however or an even though, you know what I mean, Didier?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. All right, we got one more. I think just time to look at Asha's. I think we don't need to make too many changes. Let's see, student original.
Professor, one more question. So if you use the same words again, can you put in a quote?
Yeah, again, I think I only talked about this once or twice, but if it's a really key word that the author put into quotes, like in the original here, he put distraction in quotations, I think that can be appropriate. I think this is basically just copying exactly what the author did in the original. That might be appropriate, again, because it's like a big sign saying, hey, keyword, important word. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so that might be appropriate. And especially in a paraphrase like this, in this paragraph that we're practicing here, he's literally defining that word. So it makes sense to me. You know what I mean? Like that's how important the word is here. He's giving us his definition for that word, you know?
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And when in doubt, you know what I'm going to say, Didier, which is like practice, you know, like it's good to just practice and then ask, or we can look at it, or I can, you know, give you feedback, stuff like that. So. Last one. In his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey defines distractions as anything that diverts or separates people from their intentions. I like them both. I'm going to say diverts. In this sense, what did he say in the original? In this sense? In this respect, oh, okay. In this sense, in this respect, distractions and interruptions are the same because they distance people from what they intend to accomplish. Some interruptions may be needed since or if they relate to the task at hand. I'm going to add when. Let's add when. What's the original? Some interruptions are essential, such as, I forgot, a piece of information you receive. Some interruptions may be needed. I like may be needed. I'm going to say when they relate to the task at hand. The task at hand. Sorry, now I'm going really fast, you guys. Such as related to what you're working on in that moment. Really nice idiom, Asha. Asha's got all the idioms. Yeah, the task at hand. However, most of them are better or beneficial if tackled, tamed beforehand. I like tackled. Tamed is the word he uses here. In advance. What did he say? Ahead of time. Both are great. Both are great. Yeah. You know, Asha grew up around a lot of English, you guys. Don't get disturbed. Don't get disturbed. Asha's got a lot of great synonyms here. Yeah. In his book, Hyperfocus, Bailey defines distractions. You do, Asha, you really do. Bailey defines distractions as anything that diverts people from their intentions. In this sense, distractions and interruptions are the same because they distance people from what they intend to accomplish. Some interruptions may be needed when they relate to the task at hand. However, if you want to get really fancy, you could do, you know, semicolon, lowercase h. That's, you know, real academia stuff. However, most of them are better or beneficial if they're tackled beforehand in advance. Yeah. So Asha, you guys, just for people looking at this going like, how is she doing it? One thing Asha does really well here is she's using the same sentence structure as the original, and she just does a great job deciding when to use synonyms and when to use the main ideas. I'm gonna guess that Asha has some practice paraphrasing before. Now it's still difficult, Asha, I know. That doesn't mean it's easy, but I think if you're looking at Asha's examples and going like, I don't know how to do that, you will with practice. And I think it's still helpful for you guys to see an example of sort of what a student written one sort of looks like when you're using very similar sentence structure to the original. So again, Asha, thank you for letting us look at your examples. Asha says my weakness is the second and third pronoun. Yeah. Well, it's good. Then this book's really good practice for you to switch from the second to the third person. So that's good. Cool. That's what I got. That's all. There's stuff in Canvas that I don't know what people were able to do over the break. I'm going to make my face big now. I haven't even looked at homework from spring break yet, so I'll do that probably starting in the next couple days here. I'm not going to put anything new in Canvas. What we've got in Canvas is the final project. If we feel like you need more practice, other lessons, we can talk about that next week. But again, I'm just going to, maybe you know what I'm going to say here is read this book. If you have not finished this book, read the book, listen to me, because again, the final project, is from the second half of the book. We'll talk about it a little bit next week. We can do more practice like this, but if you haven't read the last, the second half of the book, it's going to be really difficult to do a good job on the project. So read, focus on the academic writing project if you need, and let me know if there's anything else I can do to support you. But yeah, is there anything else? We got 2 more minutes. I'll put the document that we just created together, and Liz was asking, I'll put this into Canvas right now so you see the student examples. But anything else I can do for you before we finish, or any other last things here as we're getting back into the swing here, the final few weeks?
No, only more practice, Professor. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Didier says more practice next week. You guys agree? More practice paraphrasing and summarizing? We can do that for the next couple weeks here to make sure you guys feel ready. Manisha says yes. Sadaf says yes. Perfect. Okay, cool. It's like writing lab then. It's like doing writing lab together. So I'll say this, we can practice together. I think it's so good when you're writing in class right now live, but if anybody has an example of paraphrasing or summarizing from a previous lesson, or if they want to look at the academic writing project and you want to look at your own example, bring it, we can do it. Otherwise, I'll just have examples like we did today, okay?
Yes,
But for now, yes, please.
I'm gonna add something.
Okay, yeah, please.
Yeah, it's possible for you to give us some connection word, like if it is in addition to, or make the contrast between things, which kind of word we can use.
Yeah, like yeah, what would be yeah, let me think about that lesson. I'll add it to Canvas and then I'll show it to you next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like academic transition words. I think I showed you guys the academic reporting words list. Maybe we can look at that in more detail next week. So I'll stop the recording. I'll say goodbye to people watching on YouTube, and then I'll say goodbye to you all who are here with me now.